Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us on a Saturday morning. Luckily, the weather is much better than we all thought it was going to be today. We hope to have no technical issues. We were a little worried that the storm may cause us some problems, but hopefully that's all behind us and we have a beautiful Saturday ahead. And thank you for joining us. And I'm super excited to be able to share this program this morning because as you'll see, this house is just delightful. And so thank you to the homeowners, Emma Fick and Helvio. I don't want to mispronounce your last name, who are joining us today and are going to give us a tour of their beautiful place. Before we get started, I need to go through a couple of little housekeeping notes. And the first and most important is to thank our sponsors, because without them, we would not be able to do any of these programs. And our Shotgun House Month sponsors this year are Entablature Design Build and Entablature Realty, Clandestine Event Rentals, Axelrod and Associates Home Inspectors, Colmex Construction, Green Coast Enterprises, Atomic Architecture, Claire Lewis Designs, Durable Slate Company, Preservation Title, Ellie Sanders and Isabel Sanders, iMoto, who created this wonderful presentation, which we're going to see today, and 89.9, which is one of our media sponsors, which we very much appreciate. We also need to give a big thank you to the Hellis Foundation and the Klein Lehman Esperanza Fund, which supports all of PRC's programs, not just Shotgun House Month. So big thank you to them. And the Ella West Freeman Foundation, which supports our conservation and education programs at the PRC, which are so much a part of the heart of what we do every day at the PRC. And the Eugenie and Joseph Jones Family Foundation, which supports our revival grants. And I want to say a word about our revival grants because they are a huge part of what we do. And all donations that we are receiving during Shotgun House Month supports our revival grants. Revival grants provide free home repairs to low-income homeowners in the Tremaine neighborhood. We provide a vital lifeline, as we've all known, with hurricanes and climate change and termites and all the other things that can be destructive to our homes in New Orleans. And it can be very costly to fix them. And so PRC comes in and helps people stay in their homes, helps make repairs that protects their biggest asset and helps protect the neighborhood architecture for many generations to come. So any donations made today will support our revival grants, which we're very, very proud of. Big thank you to all of our PRC members. We are a 501c3 organization, and we could not do it without our members and our donors. Every one of you at every donor level helps support our work, and it is vitally important to us. Today, we're asking that if you can, during Shotgun House Month, and if you're enjoying these programs, that you make a $25 donation. Danielle Watson, who is our ghost in the machine tech wizard, who is controlling all of this wonderful Zoom technology and the iMoto technology, will put the web address in our chat function so everybody can see it. It makes it super easy. $25 would be the cost of an in-person ticket if this was an in-person tour. So that supports all of our work and makes it possible. And if you donate at the $25 level, you will receive our digital design guide, which is super cool. We created this for the first time this year, and every house featured on our tour has a 3D tour, which we'll show in a minute, and also listings about all the fun details about the house, the paint colors, the furnishings, the artwork, the fixtures. So if you are someone who loves design, or you're interested in renovation, or you are renovating, or you're just someone like me who just loves seeing all this stuff, you're going to really enjoy that design guide. And it's a digital thing we'll send to you, to anyone who donates at $25 or more. Finally, I shouldn't say finally, I have two more things. Tomorrow is Father's Day. If you are still without a gift, we have some wonderful gifts in our PRC merchandise store online. Fabulous books on architecture design, New Orleans history, cheeky t-shirts, tote bags, masks, all kinds of fun things. And everything is 20% off during the month of June. So check it out. And in addition to Shotgun House Month going on this month, we are also launching our Maintain Right series, which is a series of home improvement classes and videos showing you tips and advice for maintaining your house, looking and troubleshooting problems in your house. Oftentimes you see a thing like a spot on the ceiling and you're like, who do I even call to fix that? We're going to answer those questions. You can see the whole schedule at prcno.org. And last but not least, before we jump into this great program, is you can see us. We cannot see you. Your mics and your videos are off. However, we really encourage participation. And the chat function and the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen are how we do that. So Emma and I and Helvio are going to go through their house and chat. And then as you're seeing things, put your questions down there in those Q&A or chat function. And then at the end, we'll answer some of your questions. So with less ado, I want to say welcome to Emma and Helvio. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. We're happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, we're super excited to see your beautiful house. It is so charming, and it's in the Milan neighborhood, and it was built in about the 1920s. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And I'm looking at the exterior. We're going to start on the exterior. What's really, it's basically a very classic shotgun. It was a single from the beginning, wasn't it? Or was it a double at one point?
It was a single. It was always a single.
It was always a single. And so you bought it in 2020, but you've been there since about 2018, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Well, let's go inside. So we're going to see this presentation is a 3D tour that we did with the company iMoto, and it allows us to move around the inside of the house. And you can click on all these little buttons that you see, which Danielle will be the one driving this wonderful thing for us. And it will pop up little information about each of the things that we're talking about. So as we'll go through, but this is part of the design guide. So if you get the design guide, you'll be able to click on all these things. We're not going to click on all of them because we have Emma and Helvio here, so we don't really need to click these, but we just wanted to show you the functionality as we go through. So what I love about this house is the fact that it's a shotgun, clearly, but when they renovated, the previous owners renovated, is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
You want to tell us a little bit about them and what they did?
Yeah, they began their renovation process in about 2015. The house was in bad shape. It had not been lived in since Hurricane Katrina. So it was about a decade of falling into disrepair. So James and Barbara Williford, who were the owners before us, really lovingly restored this. And they decided to kind of bump out the side hall to make a full side hall, which means that unlike most traditional shotguns, there is a bit of privacy for each room, and there's a way to access each room without walking through, every bedroom, every living room to get to every other room. And then they took down the wall that would have once divided this large space that is now our kitchen, living room, and part of my studio space. They took down that wall to make this beautiful open plan living area. And I have to shout them out. They did a really wonderful, beautiful job. Elvio and I travel a lot, and we didn't have the brain space or really the time to take a project on ourselves. So we were really looking for a move-in ready house. And when we walked into this one, just the loving restoration and the way that they took pieces of wood that they found under the house that were historic and incorporated them into the decorative beams. We were just blown away. And we basically got to move in and start interior decorating, as opposed to often in New Orleans, you move in and you have to replace the central air and then do this and do that. So it was fully restored in 2015.
That is a wonderful gift to be able to move into a house that's done. So many of us have done renovations, and renovations can be a lot of fun and also can be really stressful. And so to be able to walk in and everything was done is just delightful. The One of the things that I really like about what they did, and maybe you can talk about how this works with your life, is that they created mini shotguns. When you walk in the front door, you're walking straight into the living room, the double parlor. This one, they created kind of a foyer, kind of an entryway by closing off. And I guess it was a side gallery that they enclosed to do that. How do you use that space?
Yeah, this is one of my favorite things about the house. I don't know if it's possible on this 3D tour to go and it's as if you're like standing at the front door looking all the way in. But one thing I love is that when you walk in, so the house looks fairly diminutive from the outside and it's smaller than the houses around it, but it has this almost magical effect where you open the door and you're like, oh, it keeps on going back. So if you turn and face the back of the house, I love that you can see all the way to the back, but this foyer provides some privacy. We use it kind of also as a mud room where we can take off our jackets, we can take off our shoes. And then, you get this great visual down to the back of the house. And one thing that's so great about shotguns is that they are so just long and skinny. And yet you can't see into any of the rooms. So I like that we get the openness, we get the visual of the long shotgun, but we still maintain privacy. And that's one of my favorite things about opening the door and just having this visual straight all the way to the back of the house.
Right. And it creates a whole nother sort of, passageway that you can section off. I don't believe it was a side hall originally, was it? It was a side gallery that they enclosed.
And they pushed it out a bit to make more room for this.
To make it a longer,
hall.
spacious hallway. They kept all of the natural wood trim, and some of these were salvage beams that they found under the house. Is that correct? That they couldn't
Right.
use?
They had to salvage beams. There was almost nothing of the original interior that was salvageable. It basically had to be gutted. Everything that could be saved was reincorporated. And this huge wooden beam that you see going over the kitchen was a large pile of wood that was found underneath the house. It was kind of unexpected find, and I think it really adds soul to the space because it's sad. I think it's sad when you have to completely gut a house. It's not ideal, but I love that these elements tie it to its history and the original state of it.
Absolutely. It also gives it its own personality. You know what I mean? It's like it makes this space unique in that they kept the wood, the natural color, and you still see it accentuates how tall the ceilings are. So it's really charming that they were able to do that. Was the house vacant, do you know, when they bought it?
It was owned by a man named Anthony Batiste, and actually like his sister-in-law lives around the corner from here still. Like there are people in the neighborhood that remember him, and he unfortunately passed away, and the house was in disrepair ever since he passed away. And it was vacant. Yes, it was vacant.
Well, it's wonderful that they were able to save it, come in and save it, and then now y'all have it for a whole new use. So one of the fun things is that, and I'm remiss that I didn't say this at the beginning, both of you have careers that you're able to work from home. Emma, you are, of course, I imagine many of our viewers know, incredibly talented artist, illustrator, an author. And Helvio, you're an oceanographer from Brazil originally, is that correct?
Exactly.
And you both work from home in this space. How does that work? This work from home world that we're living in now.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting when the pandemic started, I felt like quite the expert on working from home. But what I will say is that we had years of practice before we moved into this space. We, for a long time, traveled and worked together because Helvio does 100% of his work on his computer, lucky him. And we would travel and I would paint and then come back during the festival seasons. I would, sell work at Jazz Fest and then we would leave again. And often when we were traveling, we had to work for days, weeks, months on end sometimes at the same table. So we knew when we were looking at houses that we wanted a place where we could both work comfortably from home, but we had so much practice of knowing exactly what we needed that it made it a little easier. So Helvio has the first bedroom is his office. And I am able to use this front space by the windows as like half of my studio space. The minute I walked into this house and I saw the natural light, I said, that's where my workspace is going to be. And that would not work for a lot of people. A lot of people need a closed door in order to really focus and get to work. But because we had so much practice working in open planned spaces, I knew that this would not be an issue for us. We are very accustomed to putting on our headphones, not talking to each other during the day, ignoring each other. So this would not work for everyone, but for us, it's really ideal because I get to work by this beautiful light-filled window, and Helvio gets his own private office. And it's more important for him to have a door that he can close, especially for meetings and such. So we were looking for a house that had great natural light for me. And I mean, I guess this is a pretty low bar, but like a room with a door we could close for him.
A desk and a computer, yeah.
And then to be able to use the space. So what was probably, I'm guessing, the original double parlors of the house is now a sort of triple use room for you, right? It's your workspace, living room, kitchen. Talk a little bit about that and how you separate the spaces into three kind of uses.
Yeah, it took a while. The couch placement turned out to be key. For about the first, I'd say like 6 to 8 months, we had the couch facing the windows because that seemed like what made sense. You know, you want to sit, you want to be able to look out the windows. But visually and also emotionally, it didn't quite work. And I had a few friends who suggested, because look, it takes a village, interior design. I had a few friends that said, oh, what if you turn around the couch? And I did it, and it just completely changed the space for me, especially putting that console table there. The couch provides a back, which is a kind of de facto wall. And it also makes me feel like if anyone's sitting there, they're going to be looking away from me, and I can work in peace. So even if Helvio during the day wants to take a break and come sit on the couch, I can ignore him because he's looking the other way. So that was really instrumental, making that little, living room conversation space separate from my workspace. And we don't mind if the conversation space blends into the kitchen space. Those were not important for us to delineate. And then actually where we're looking right now at the couch to the left, I made my office space, which is where I just stuck a little skinny desk. And that's where I do computer work, to where I write invoices. I have a lot of very important documents on that bulletin board. So at least when I sit down, I'm visually feeling like, okay, now I'm in my little cubicle, and this is where I do my, my like the more office work, my technical work. But I will say this room, just because it's so huge and we wanted it to do 4 things, studio, my office space, living room, and kitchen, and actually dining room, because next to the island, we have a drop leaf table that we can open up and put next to the bench. So really 5 things. This room took quite a while to get right. And honestly, it was a lot of trial and error and seeing what in our daily life felt natural. Like, did we feel natural going to sit, going to work? When we invited guests in, did it feel like it was an organic kind of movement around the space? And it just took time.
Well, and it really seems to have, every space has its like zone. And I think, like you said, with the console table, it really makes it, those chairs really sort of delineate that from the kitchen. It really is a wonderful visual on how to set something like this up. Because I think a lot of houses, especially shotgun houses, have the situation where most shotgun houses don't have a den in modern parlance, I guess. You have basically one big room that is your sort of public space, and then you have bedrooms and bathrooms, and you don't really have this like I guess today's floor plans where you would have dens and living rooms and dining rooms separate. So this really feels like every space of your house is fully used. You know,
Oh, yeah.
there's no room that's unused, right?
And that's one thing that's very important to us, especially to Elvio. I'm talking a lot for him because he's shy. I promise he prefers it this way. Um, we don't like when there's a space in a house that feels unused or just for show. It's very important to us that like every space in the house is kind of touched with our hands or with our energy. Like we spend time in every single space. And that's one reason that when we were looking, we needed more square footage because we both work from home, but we didn't want to go too far where there was going to be something that was kind of sterile, a kind of salon type of space. And I will say I'm very proud that, you know, we occupy each little niche in the house every single day. And it makes us feel like we're making very good use of this beautiful space that we're able to occupy.
So the house is about 1,950 square feet. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And it's 3 bedrooms, 2 baths.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have your bedroom, your master bedroom, Helvio's office, and then a guest bedroom.
Well, the guest bedroom is my other workspace. I expanded.
I mean, it because you live and work there, it's like, you know, you feel like you do need as much space as you need.
Right, and it can be a guest room. The bed can convert, but in general, you know, the amount of times a year that we have guests, I want to be able to use that room for something else as well.
Sure, it gets back to sort of using all the spaces and keeping them in use. Well, let's talk a little bit about some of the fun things in this room. Much of the artwork obviously is your own artwork, and then also family pieces and stuff from your travels.
Yes, and actually in the kitchen, 3 of these pieces are ones that we took back from Brazil. Every time we go there, which is usually for a few months every year, to spend time with Elvio's family, friends, and soak up the beautiful beaches there. We always return with either art or artifacts. For example, that beautiful woven yellow runner that's on our island was brought back from Brazil. We bring back a lot of functional things from Brazil as well. And it kind of is a way for us to infuse his home with our home here. So the above the door, that's a print from an artist in Brazil. The piece all the way to the right is from a museum in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And we really have fun everywhere we travel, taking back little bits and pieces.
And the poster that Danielle just popped up, you designed the Bayou Boogaloo poster.
Yes.
Not last year, 2018.
2018. Forever ago. Yeah.
Right. Well, we sort of lost a whole year, so there was no 2020, I don't think. So that's fabulous. I'm looking at it. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
And then this space, do you cook? Do either of you cook?
I cook. I cook.
Lots of Brazilian food, I imagine.
Yeah.
So,
and we really, as a couple, do not go out, and we entertain people. Our version of going out is people come over for dinner. So, I mean, this kitchen gets a crazy amount of use. We were joking the other day because we realized we've never just us 2 gone out to eat. Like, we'll go if it's with another couple, but our kind of baseline is cooking, and Elvio's a fabulous cook. So we really, this kitchen is gorgeous. They did a gorgeous job, and we really use it a lot.
It's beautiful. What is the stove? It looks like it's 6 burner.
Yeah, it's 5.
It's 5.
Mm-hmm.
Great. It looks like a terrific stove. And then the open shelving above it, that was there, or was that something you added?
That was there. That was all done by the Willafords, and it matches the shelves in the living room and also in the hallway.
Those were done by Benjamin Bolin and what's the other? Matthew
Holden. Mm-hmm.
Who are 2 talented local woodworkers and furniture design makers. Let's talk a little bit about the furnishings in your living room. You get a lot from consignment stores, family pieces. Tell us a little bit about that. They'll love those chairs in particular.
Yeah, those are Facebook Marketplace.
Oh, that's a find.
Yeah, and actually the little side table in between them is from UAL, which is, most people know it as the best kept secret, a great clothing store here in New Orleans, but they from time to time get seconds from furniture stores. And I like having those three together because I tried some solid pieces of furniture there and it looked too blocky because you need it to kind of flow into the kitchen. And all three of these pieces have windows through which you can look, which makes it feel much more like one space is flowing into another. And my most precious pieces in this whole space were built by my grandfather. He was a teacher, but he did woodworking on the side. So the bench and this beautiful geometric plant stand, which is usually the thing that people comment on when they come in, and also the piece of furniture to the left of the bench. These were all made by my grandfather, and I just adore them. And I feel very lucky that something has made it through the generations. And look, these things will last forever. So I'm hoping that they'll last, to the next generation and the next. And my grandfather also built the console table that goes behind my couch. He did a lot of kind of mid-century inspired pieces. So he did the one that went behind the couch, as well as the marble one that you see here. It's a marble top one. So I feel very grateful for that. And then, yeah, I just stock places like Consign, Merchant House, Retreat on the North Shore. I'm not sure really anything in this house was bought new. I mean, maybe one or two things, but I also dumpster dive. You can find a lot of great stuff in the dumpsters here. And
this is from your...
yeah, the piece on the side is also from my grandfather. And then in the entryway by the mirror, there are some carvings from my dad. And I just love having all of these family elements mixed in with secondhand finds, because I think secondhand finds also carry the stories of who came before with them. So I just love being surrounded by secondhand items, and some pieces I have to imagine what the story was, and then some pieces I know very, very directly and literally.
Well, you seem to come from such an incredibly artistic family. And so did you grow up with art, or was it something that, it sounds like both your father and your grandfather were talented artists, even if not for full-time careers like you. Did they influence your own artistic path?
Absolutely. My dad and his parents, that side of the family, is a very tactile, I would say sculptural, they build, whether it's houses or furniture, that came from that side of the family, as well as a penchant for collecting. I was going into houses all the time that had vast collections of eggs and frogs, which is why I have a huge collection now of hands and eggs, actually, and little squiggles. So I got that idea of like collecting and cultivating almost a little museum inside your home from them. And then my mom is a very talented visual artist, more in my vein, like pen and paper painting. And it was always encouraged when I grew up, and also just being surrounded by art books, going to art museums, things like that. I do feel like a creative lifestyle was in our blood to a certain extent.
Let's go, Danielle, can you show some of the hand collection? Because I love the hand collection. She has pieces. You tell us about this hand collection, because it's just every kind of hand, right? It's sculptural, it's artistic representation in other ways.
Right. I have little kind of vignettes all over the house of my little hand collections. Well, it's not so little. I counted recently and I counted 87. A lot of them I pick up on travels. The first one I got when I was on a road trip in college. It's a blue glass hand, and I really like hands because it's always been the way that I do my work. They are the tools of my trade. So symbolically, they're very important. And then visually, I love them. I minored in art history, and hands are very important in terms of delineating what's important. Like in a painting, it'll be, you know, the queen, whatever is in her hand, it symbolizes, you know, her ethos or her, I won't go into art history here, but I love hands for a lot of different reasons. And like, for example, on this console table, you can see those 3 brass hand door knockers I got in Portugal. The hands on top of the books are actually, they're a functional whistle, and it's made by a local artist named Carl Roberts. And then there's a red hand on that table that I got at a flea market in Paris. It's just everywhere I go, I take them home with me, and Lord knows what this collection is going to look like when I'm 80, because it's already out of control. But I like the idea of kind of being surrounded by things that you love. Oh, yes, this is my crazy hand wall. I don't know if we can look at it.
Hold on, we'll get back to it. Oh, wow.
So that back scratcher my mom found for me at a thrift store in Covington, Louisiana. The hand paintings I did. The mirrors were from a market here in New Orleans. There's a little lavender sachet that's embroidered that was done for me by a dear friend. And then there's some pins that I got at the Ogden Museum. So actually a lot of these hands are local hands.
No, these are from Mexico, right?
They're from Mexico, but there's an artist in New Orleans who brings back things when she travels and sells them here.
They're so intriguing because, you know, it's like I don't know. I find hands intriguing too, because like the length of the fingers and they're sort of sculptural in their own design.
Oh, absolutely.
Helvio, how do you feel about having all these collections? Are you part of this now? Do you collect hands as well, or is this?
Well, when we are traveling, everywhere that we go, Emma needs to look at her hands. And because of that, I think I got in this kind of mood too. So everywhere we go, I kind of look to see if I can see some hands to buy. I just part of our home now. I enjoy it, yeah.
He accepts me, although I will say I got very offended a few months ago because he told me we now have too many hands in our garden. And I told him there's no such thing as too many hands in the garden. So
it's like you have to reach a saturation point.
Right.
You'll just have to get a bigger garden, you know? Else to come up with more. There's some things with the space needs to grow, not the collection doesn't need to stop, right?
Right. It'll be a museum.
It'll be a museum. Other day she arrived with a pile of new hands. And I was thinking like, what are we gonna do with this? Maybe we can put on a roof, you know, like we need to discover new places for it.
Right. I'm intrigued by the one that's a whistle. Does it, you blow through the?
Can you get it? Elvia's gonna get it.
Is that just
artist again is Carl Roberts?
Oh my goodness.
C-A-W Roberts. Which way do I blow?
That is the coolest.
I know. It's made of balsa wood. We got this at the Ogden Museum here in New Orleans.
Oh, I love their Southern Craft and Design Gallery.
Yeah.
Which is so beautiful. Well, let's go back to, as much as I love talking about your collection, let's go back and talk a little bit more about the house here. So the floors were all, they were not salvaged from the original floors from what I understand. Is that correct?
No.
Because they couldn't salvage them. So they were stained with Annie Sloan paint?
They were hand painted.
They were hand painted.
Well, I guess everything is hand painted, but they were painted, yes. And, you know, they're getting weathered with use. There are certain places in our home where there's a lot of brown. There are some places where it's still completely painted, and we love that. It tracks where our feet travel the most. And I really like it. I think that it adds intrigue and character to the house.
Yeah, it's sort of like, I always, when you go somewhere ancient, like in Greece, where you see the marble, you know, relics and ancient ruins, and you see where like the marble has been weighed down by people's feet. And it's sort of like this, where it's like, you can imagine generations walking through, and you know, the places show the wear, but that's part of the character, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, I think part of what makes our older architecture so charming is just that it has generations of use. So
Right. And you lovingly care for it. And those signs, I don't think are, those signs of use are not to be covered up. For me, it's something that is just, you know, intrinsic to, you know, using a space. It's going to get a little messed up. And I've never wanted to have a house that's too precious. I never liked going into houses where I felt like I was going to stain something or sit on something and mess it up. So, you know, even the color of our couch, I'm like, if you spill coffee on that, it's kind of coffee colored, so it'll be fine. So I like the idea of spaces, people enter them and, you know, maybe they like how they look, but they don't feel like they're walking on eggshells to not mess something up.
Well, before we leave this space, I'd be remiss to not point out that there is no television in this space, or is there, or is it hidden?
No, I always forget. No, we don't have one. No.
Anywhere in the house?
No.
Well, there is in my office, I have a big screen and we have a couch over there. So sometimes
once in the last year, we watched something on there.
Yeah.
My husband and I are the same way. People come in and they're like, where do you watch TV? And we're like, we kind of don't, or we watch it on our computer.
Right.
But I just am always intrigued, and I love to point that out because, you know, so many people decorate where the TV is such a part of their lives, and that's great, especially if you have children and you know, someone who really enjoys watching sports or something. But then there are houses like this where it's just not there. I mean, because
it's not something that we discussed. Like, people ask, oh, was this an intentional decision to not put a TV in? And it's just, you know, we were discussing a million things when we were moving in about how it would be arranged. And it's just so much not a part of either of our lives that it wasn't even a discussion. And I also, like, of course, I watch shows. I watch them on my laptop if I want to watch something. But I grew up in a house without a TV, and Helvio.
No, I grew up with a lot of TVs around, but when I moved it by myself, I kind of lost this behavior of watching TV all the time, and especially the time that we were living, traveling like nomadic. I just lost this behavior of watching TV, only using my computer for everything. So
I actually really think it was our years of traveling that made us completely forget that TVs existed. Because even if you're in a country and you're renting someplace that has a TV, you can't understand what's on the TV. And so we really just kind of lost it in those years.
Yeah.
Well, so you have 3 books. You have 2 that are already published and 1 coming out. Is that correct? All from your travels. You want to tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah. So the first was published in 2015. I did it when I was living in Serbia, which is a small country in Eastern Europe and the Balkans. I was just, you know, chronicling daily life and illustrations, and they caught on, and I got a grant from the embassy to return and do more. And it turned into a book kind of accidentally. And at that time, I was planning on going to graduate school in literature, and said, oh, I guess I'll try to be an artist for a few years, and moved back into my parents' house and started working on the New Orleans book, just to see if this was something, if it was a fluke or something I could continue. Published the New Orleans book in 2017. And then I just finished an illustrated guide to the Trans-Siberian Railway, which is a trip that we took together in 2017. And that will be published by HarperCollins Design in 2022. I just finished the whole process and submitted the manuscript. So I'm feeling very, very happy and ready for that to come out. And you can see more information about my books on my website.
And I, again, would be remiss if I didn't say follow Emma on Instagram, because her Instagram is beautiful with all of her artwork. I'm putting in the chat the names of your books, because Snippets of New Orleans is just so charming. I'm a huge fan, so
thank you.
Everyone can see them there. I'm putting them in the chat. Well, let's walk down the hall. We've been all this time talking about this wonderful room. Let's walk down the hall a little bit and see a little of the rest of the house. So Neil, you want to drive us there? So in the hallway, you want to talk a little bit about these shelves and what's on them?
Yeah, these shelves they have saved my life. They're floor to ceiling. I use every single inch of them, the white ones. I mean, I love the other ones too, but these white shelves, I mean, my storage problems were kind of 50% solved. My dad built these for me, and I'm very grateful for them. And I'm able to store my inventory, my packing supplies, and even though it's out in the open, to me, it doesn't look bad. I mean, you always worry when you're storing things in an open storage space that it's just going to look totally chaotic. And there's some chaos there, but I don't mind it. I kind of like that our life is just an absolute fusion of work and personal space. And then these beautiful wooden shelves are by the same two woodworkers who did the ones in the kitchen. And I stack paintings there, 3 and 4 deep. So they're not only for display, but also for storing my work. So with some of them, you can probably see that, it's like 5 paintings there just stacked one after another. And I like this idea that it can be both display and storage at the same time.
And then it kind of creates this sort of revolving gallery in your house, because
Right.
I imagine when you sell something else comes up.
Right, like I take one to hang in a gallery and I just turn around the one that's behind it, and then that's the new look for a few weeks. And it's fun. I like having something new to look at, every month or so.
One of the problems that a lot of people have in our older houses is that we don't have a lot of closet space or a lot of storage space. And so using this side hall as a sort of storage space is really kind of smart. And this looks beautiful. So were these old like cigar boxes, or are they?
They're wine boxes.
They're wine boxes. I'm
A
sorry.
lot of places don't get them in the wooden boxes anymore, but this is a great secret tip. If you go to Paces on the North Shore and go to the back room where they unload the wine, usually they'll sell them to you for $5. I shouldn't tell my secrets, but I have enough now.
That is a great tip. You're from Covington, right? You grew up in Covington?
Right.
Yeah.
But I couldn't find them in New Orleans, and I couldn't. They hold on to them here.
I wonder if Dornax in Metairie might have them, because they have a big wine selection too. But
maybe I tried at Martin's wine cellar. No luck.
Yeah, that's a great storage tip though, because they do look really presentable, I should say. I don't know what the better word. For storing a bunch of stuff, it's not like just bricks and all the miscellanea. You have a way to organize it, and it's also really attractive and very lovely there. So this is Helvio. This is your office, right?
Yeah, this is my workplace. Yeah. So
this house also was featured in the Times-Picayune, and it was really fun because it was like, you're the minimalist and Emma is not a minimalist. So this is where you get to like close the door and have calm or whatever. Tell us a little about your space.
Yeah. So this space, first, my desk was close to the window. But because we have all this part of a storage of Emma's too, and the printer and stuff, I had to cross to get my place. So instead of that, we decided to flip it. So now half of there is like printing stuff from Emma. So I have the printer, the scanner, everything. And my place actually is just this first half, where I have the couch on here on the right and my desk on the left. So I can work here on this is a great improvement for me for having a fixed place, because before I had to work only my laptop. So now I have a big screen that makes a huge difference for me.
And he'll go and he'll work. And when he needs a break, he just goes right back to that couch and lays down. So the way that this is set up has really been good for him. And I feel very bad for, as usual, taking up most of the space in the room. But I will also say I had to fight him. There are 3 pieces that we hung above his desk. And that was a big fight because he didn't want anything in this room, because I think that I have so much chaos in the rest of the house. But the piece in the middle is one by a local artist named Imogen Banks. So I just want to shout her out because we really love that piece.
Oh, it's beautiful.
So yeah, it's great. I just can close the door. I have my desk, I have the couch. I can go to the kitchen, get coffee, snacks. I can look for Emma and go back and close the door again. Yeah, it's perfect for me.
So you're an oceanographer?
Yes, I am an oceanographer. Yeah.
And so, do you focus on any particular part of the world's oceans, or is it just
Most of my work is in Brazil,
in Brazil?
and I work with the physical part of the ocean. So waves, currents, tides. Basically, I work like simulating the ocean in computers.
Oh, wow.
And with that, I do simulations about oil spills and impacts in general. Yeah.
Wow. It's very important work, especially today.
Yeah.
So this is a little hall bath across from, it's a little bit further down past your office. Is that correct? Is
It's
this
a little before. It's
Yeah,
between
it's
the
on the left.
kitchen and his office.
Yes.
Okay.
And the two pieces of women there, another local artist named Luke Coferl. He has really phenomenal work, and a lot of it is New Orleans centric. Highly recommend his work. And the piece above is by a previously local artist. She just moved to Philadelphia, a weaver named Lena Kolb. So I do a lot of trades with people when I'm working at art markets and festivals. I try to pick something up. I feel like our house is a mix of local, and like stuff brought back from the other side of the world. There's no in between.
But that's what's such a beautiful mix. I mean, and also because you're in sort of that art and craft circuit, you get to really see what everybody else's work is, if they're here for just a minute.
I'm always trying to buy everything from the person
Right.
to me at the art market,
Right. Which art markets do you do?
During COVID, I really didn't do any. I'm kind of paring them down now. I'm doing the bigger ones, mainly Jazz Fest. I'll be at the Contemporary Crafts section in October this year. I really love Three Rivers, which is in Covington, where I grew up. And I do them in Lafayette, the Festival Acadian and Festival International. And some months of the year I set up with the Arts Council here in New Orleans, either in Palmer Park or City Park.
Do you do the ones also outside, like in the Smithsonian in DC? I think has a big art.
I don't travel right now for art shows. I do entirely local because we travel so much. It's like when we come back for the major retail periods in New Orleans, it's really on the ground here.
Yeah. So before we leave that bathroom, that was completely done when you bought the house. It's beautiful. I love the subway tile on the walls. It just seems very clean and efficient, but also just fitting to the house with the tile on the floor and the subway tiles on the walls.
Absolutely. I mean, this house, we just felt like we were moving into not even a blank slate, like a beautiful slate that we could then layer ourselves on top of. And we love doing that. And there was nothing that they did in the renovation that we were like, And, we were looking for a house for quite a while, and a lot of the other houses had that. We were like, oh, we like 80% of it, 20%, we'll fix it. And this house really felt like there's nothing that we need to fix. We just need to layer on top.
Only the backside.
The garden?
The garden.
We re-landscaped.
Well, we'll see some pictures of the garden in just a second. So then we go to your other workspace. Let's go into that room as well.
And this is the room that I use. We had a roommate, a person living here for quite a while, and she moved out at the beginning of the pandemic. And then it turned into our guest room. And I always gravitate towards the light. So I set up everything by the window to be where I do illustrations. So now I do my fine art out, by the big windows in the open area. And I do my books, my illustration work here by this window.
I mean, the house just really works for y'all. It just really fits your lives.
It really does. I mean, we're very happy. And this used to be the couple that renovated it. This was their nursery.
Oh,
yeah.
It's really pretty. And then let's see.
Another hand, big surprise.
I love the hand picture.
And the armchair was actually handed down from my grandmother. And then above the couch, which my friend Lindsay was moving and just gave to me. And I was like, yes, I will take it. That teal couch, the pieces above it were also by my grandfather. And Helvio stores all his surfboards above the closets.
Oh, surfboards. There's nowhere to surf down here. Are you heartbroken?
Right.
I mean, I know there's some people who surf down in Grand Isle, but I think that's probably nothing compared to what you mean. I don't think that quite cuts it, right? So are those built-in pieces, the closets, or are they?
They are.
Okay.
They were, customized for that space. And we had some open closets that were built into our master bedroom, which we didn't include on this tour. Which one of them we converted to something to hold my frames. And these are kind of skinny, shallow closets that, it's just enough. It's not enough for a huge closet, but they're actually filled, no surprise, with my art supplies. So, oops.
But again, it was a nice way, most of these houses don't have a lot of storage.
Right.
Traditionally, they were never built with closets. So building that in is a really useful help.
Well, and this is the only closet that we have besides a very small walk-in one that we have in our master bedroom. So we do have the kind of traditional problem of shotguns of not having a lot of storage space. But, I feel like we've built it in, found a way to accommodate it. And then you are absolutely right. Closets like this that were put into this room are such a godsend.
Yeah, it's the perennial problem with all older architecture. This is a clever solution. I love the exposed fireplaces. Traditionally, in these old houses, they would have had plaster on them, but it looks like they did a beautiful job of keeping it. Yeah. And you can see it's sealed up, but still showing where it would have had probably coal or original, or maybe even gas fireplaces back then.
Right.
And are they in every room?
They are just, you can see one side of it in this room and the other side you can see in Helvio's office. And yeah, this is one of those original elements that was saved that really gives the house the I don't know, the spirit, the feeling that it has. So we do feel tied to the past and not like we're living in a suburban house in the middle of anywhere. We feel like we're in New Orleans because we have all of these little touches.
Right, absolutely. And those look like the original doors. They might have been on the house.
They were, I believe they were salvaged from another house in New Orleans. They were original doors somewhere, but I don't believe they were here.
Well, Danielle is telling me that we only have 8 minutes left. So I want to open it up to anyone's questions that they may have. I know Ellen had asked for more information on UAL, which is one of my favorite stores. I did not know that UAL did furniture.
Yes. They just got a shipment in actually, and I went and bought a little table. The one I like to go to the one in Metairie because they get a little bit more furniture, and they do have them in other places in the South, like Hattiesburg and places like that, but not just for clothing. They do also get designer clothing from a few seasons ago or that didn't sell. But yeah, a lot of people don't know they also get home goods from a few seasons ago. So it's hit or miss, but check it out.
Yeah, so to those who don't know, it's there's one in the Quarter, there's one in Metairie, there's also, like you said, other places in the South. There's one in Jackson, Mississippi, I know, and it is the place to find the designer stuff at like half quarter price. So
right, and I go for the
clearance rack a little, but I do love it.
I go to the clearance rack because even designer stuff at a quarter of the price is still $300. So I wait until it's like no one in the world wants it. It's been there for 6 months. I go to the clearance rack and that's where I go.
I know. I'm the same. So I see we have a question, and I spoke out of turn a little bit. Somebody saying, can we see the garden? And I would love to show you the garden. Unfortunately, we do not have pictures on this iMoto of the garden. We do have some. Danielle, would you be able to pull up some from our website? Is that possible? And then also, if you go to Emma's Instagram, I know you have some pictures of there. So y'all, it's a small garden, but you've done both vegetable garden and flower garden back there. Is that correct?
Right. We have 2 raised flower beds with wildflowers, some in-ground planted beds that we have herbs, lettuce, things like that. We have a side raised bed with tomatoes and such. And we made a little succulent garden. It is a very small space, so we had to really be intentional about carving it up into little small sections. And it reminds me of these places in Portugal. They're called patios, and they're very small spaces, but they're carefully designed in such a way that you feel like just relaxed when you go there. Everything has its proper place. It also reminds me in some respects of, a Japanese garden. And yeah, it's a small space, but we have really filled it and we really use it. We spend a lot of time back there in our front little garden, and our house is set back from the street a little bit, which means that we feel like we have this little secret garden oasis happening both in the front and the back. And we like to entertain in the back as well. And it was good during COVID when we couldn't do it inside. We would host dinners out there.
Yeah, I feel like we've all re-engaged with our yards during COVID. I know my husband and I live in either the front or back of our houses, front yard or backyard of our houses, because we too have like a little courtyard front. And we did that before the pandemic, but during the pandemic, it was just a godsend. It was the only way we felt comfortable seeing friends. We would sit so socially distant. We would put a fire pit in the middle of it. I always joke that, the fire would keep the COVID between us away, and everybody felt a little safe doing it. And it was just a godsend. So the front courtyard of your house, it does sit back. So you do have some seating area up there as well?
We do. We sit out on the porch, especially in the morning. The way the sun goes, it's like morning front porch, evening back porch. And in Louisiana, we can only use our yards for joy during certain months of the year. So we haven't been going out as much because of heat, tropical storms, all that stuff. But yeah, we have a little seating area in the front, as well as a little garden where Helvio built a little house for me to feed all my outdoor cats. And it's a very special little place for us.
Oh, that's awesome. I know we've gotten really into the bird feeders over the pandemic.
Oh, we're looking for the perfect bird fountain. We're ready also to expand into other creatures.
We've become kind of obsessed with them. Like we'll be sitting out and we'll look out the window and we're like, come quick, it's a whatever. And I bought my husband one of the guide books, and so now we keep it outside, and we were like, get the book, what is that? We saw a painted bunting in our bird feeder, and we all went just crazy about it. We're like, wow.
We love bird watching. I will say bird watching in Louisiana after you bird watch in Brazil is a little depressing, but we still love it.
Yeah, that's not quite right. I mean, yeah, we can't really quite hold a candle to Brazil, but
we also, we like know the birds that come here. It's like, oh, come to the window, they had a baby. Oh, look, that's
right, exactly.
Fly. Yeah, that's our TV. That's why we don't have a TV.
Right, we're right there with you. We do the exact same thing. It's like this morning I got up and I looked out and we had a flower on one of this big bush that we have back there, and I was like, come quick, look, it bloomed last night. Right. This is what we've become. It's like, this is our entertainment now. So, well, does anyone else have any questions for Emma and Helvio? I know we've gotten some wonderful responses that people say they just absolutely have enjoyed your home and have really loved seeing it. So I want to be respectful of everybody's time on this Saturday morning. So thank you so much for showing us your house. It's such a charmer, and we can't wait to see your new book.
Oh, thank you. And thanks for letting us share it. It's a pleasure. We spend so much time holed up here that it's nice to open our doors virtually to everybody.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you for everybody who tuned in this morning. And I hope everybody has a good day now that it's not pouring down rain. So enjoy this weekend.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.